Do you remember when we went to work via that massive helicopter?
Yeah, we flew from somewhere around London, you, me, Alexandra Roach and Sheridan Smith, and we flew all the way to Wales, didn't we?
Yeah, and we landed on the master's course at Celtic Manor, where you received the hero's welcome. You were like a god at Celtic Manor.
That's true, isn't it? We've been filming in England and it's just, oh yeah, Rob Brydon. And then we were in Wales. So hello everybody. Yeah, all right. Today's guest lives about literally closer than anyone. I could shout and he might be able to hear me. We acted together in a film. You won't find anybody who doesn't like Nick Frost. And there he is. There he is. Ha ha ha.
How are you, bud?
Look at you. You look fantastic.
Thanks, mate. I'm going away next week to America for 5 months. The family will be out like next month for 4 months.
Oh,
and then
okay.
The other family will be out over Christmas for 5 weeks. So I'll be like Picasso with loads of kids and 2 wives. And
Yeah.
a kind of whole setup with a lot of sister wives and kids running around.
Yeah, but you found that bigamy for you, it's worked.
It has worked. I never thought it would, but that said, now I'm looking for a third younger partner.
Yeah.
My current wife is now 31, so I'm looking something in the 23 to 25 age range.
When we've talked about this before, you were very much leaning towards a gymnast or a tumbler from a circus. Are you still looking that way?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a dancer.
You said to me flexibility is the key thing.
Flexibility is number one. And also they need to be really shallow.
Yeah. Well, look, we all wish you well with that. Let me make an unreasonable demand, Nick Frost. Could we have this conversation in landscape?
Yes. I hope you don't mind me. I haven't seen you for a while. You look very handsome.
Do you know what? I've got these 2 huge lights, and people are saying, "Oh wow, you look like you got this real Hollywood glow." And now I'm wondering, are the lights too much?
I think they're great. I think they're just working for you.
But is it a bit misrepresentative of me?
No, I think it represents you really nicely. I've known you for many years, and you're like a younger, thinner Hugh Grant.
Jonathan Ross once described me as Hugh Grant with a wasting disease.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did Jonathan last night.
Did you?
Yeah, it was very odd having to sit so far apart, and there was only like 60 people in the audience.
Oh, but never mind that. Can I ask you another question? Are you able to put the device on a solid object for a bit of stability?
Got a can of Diet Coke here.
Nice. All right, that's good. That's nice. I like that. I can live with that. I'm happy with that. So you're going to go to Los Angeles now.
Yeah.
You'll be there for 5 months. Now, where will you be when you're out there?
I think I'm going to be. We found a really nice house in Toluca Lake.
Right.
And it's got its own basketball court, and it's got a pool and stuff. I love to shoot hoops, Rob. So it's important. That was number one on my list of needs, was a court. It's only a half court, but.
Natalya used to play basketball, if you've ever read about the great Gary Shandling, and he used to have he'd have a bunch of creative people come to his house on a sort of a Sunday, and they'd shoot hoops, and it was quite the thing to do, apparently.
To go and shoot hoops with Gary Shandling?
Well, what I'm thinking now is he's gone, and awful, but there is now a gap. A funny guy who hosts Sunday basketball meets.
Why not?
Yeah. You trying to get Shandling's crown. Let's talk about Truth Seekers, which I watched the first one of and loved. And your name is all over it. You star in it. You produce it. You wrote it with some other people. Were you involved in the catering with your cooking? Were you art department as well?
Yeah, I got a catering van. So the van came every day. I got also a coffee van with pastries.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, It was an idea that I had, me and James Serafinovitz had.
Yeah.
Just because also, we're in a group of friends me and James and Nat Saunders, who co-wrote it, and Simon, we send each other weird memes of alien spaceships and sightings and balls rolling across the floor and ghosts and poltergeists. We're always sending, saying, God, this looks creepy,
Yeah, yeah.
And going down kind of YouTube rabbit holes of, here's a woman in Chile being exorcised, and it being completely crazy.
Yeah.
But kind of 1 in 10, you'd watch it and think, hey, that kind of seemed weirdly real,
And you've done this now. This is you've made this with a company, and is this you and Simon together as a company?
It's our production company. It's been going for kind of 2 and a bit years now, and this is really our first big TV show. We did a film, but this is the first of many. I think potentially this might get a second season.
Yeah.
And then we've got like 11 people working for us, and we've got a lovely big slate. And
wow.
we're doing that thing where we've got like maybe 15 or 20 projects at different stages. But COVID's kind of fucked it, but it means we can get everything to a point where it's being written. So we're ready to go.
I was thinking earlier. And I can't remember. When did we meet? Where did we first meet?
Oh my God. I don't know, but it seems like it's been a long time.
I remember when I met Edgar Wright for the first time. It was in an alley between Oxford Street and Great Marlborough Street, and he was with Simon. And I thought Simon had brought his nephew into town or something. And I said...
a competition winner.
And I can remember where I met Simon Pegg backstage at the Partridge live show. But where did you and I meet?
It has to be somewhere around the Partridge live era, I think.
Isn't it weird though?
Julia Davis and it must have been 20 years ago.
Oh, my neck. And we've worked together only once, as far as I can remember.
Yeah, but that was, I think that was one of my favourite gigs that I've done. It was a lot of fun.
Wasn't it great? The Huntsman Winter's War, it's fair to say it didn't set the world on fire, but, I judge jobs really by the fun I've had doing them. And if it's a hit, great. But you and me playing dwarves together, what are your memories of that?
Well, I remember turning up to horse training, and you were already training, and you looked incredible. You had like a great pair of joggers on, and you had long leather boots and like an open neck blue shirt. And I really laughed because you looked absolutely amazing. You really made an effort. You had like a little costume on. I remember as well because I think I had like 4 or 5 lessons at how to ride that horse. And then when it came to us actually shooting, I don't know what happened, but they decided that we would just sit on like saddles.
Yeah, I had
that bounced, rose up and down automatically. Also, shooting over Frensham, because it was a public right of way. There were just people stood like 50 feet away, just walking their dogs while you and I bounced on these.
Yeah.
They call them phony ponies.
Is that what they are?
Wasn't it about also having a paparazzi take a long lens picture, and even though we were in the back of Chris Hemsworth's shot, we were never mentioned by name.
You'd see, when it was filming, the Daily Mail would run pictures of Jessica Chastain, and you or I would be in the back of the shot. We'd never get mentioned. Now, I told myself it was because I had prosthetic makeup, a beard, and a high forehead, But it was slightly keep your feet on the ground time. Chris Hemsworth was in that film, wasn't he? And do you know what was interesting, I thought, then? Because of late, he's made his portrayal of Thor a lot more comedic, hasn't he? You could chart that, but you could really see on that film, he was so into comedy. Do you remember that thing? I did a thing that I picked up from... here comes a name drop. I picked up from Kenneth Branagh on a play I did with him, where Ken would always say, "Dear diary, a difficult morning's rehearsal with Rob. Something seems to be troubling him." So I would, on our set, I'd say, "Dear diary, Chris seems a little distracted this morning." He couldn't get enough of that. Every time he'd come out, he'd go, "Dear diary, dear diary." So it's been really interesting for me to see how he's taken his Thor thing, to far more comedic places.
Yeah, that was our fault.
Yeah, I do. I think that he was on a sort of a journey of wanting to do that, because a guy that looks like him, you don't think comedy first of all.
No, yeah, that's true.
I
think he's naturally he's like, I'm watching a advert about guide dogs and it reminds me a bit of Chris. He's like a big, beautiful puppy, isn't he?
He's a lovely, yeah. I mean, he was kind of...
He wants to soak it all up, and
yeah.
I think often, he'd do that thing where he'd be he kind of wouldn't believe what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember my little boy, who's not little, he's now 10, but he came onto set one day when we had lots of horses. He had an Avengers T-shirt on with all the characters, and Chris was like, "Tim, so who's your favourite, mate?" And Mac pointed at every one of them except Thor. And Thor was the last one that he chose.
Let's talk a little bit about two things I don't know if people know about you. They may know the painting. I didn't know about the painting. And on Instagram, you've been doing some amazing stuff. When did that start?
Well, I started painting when I was like 22 years old.
Right.
And I did it for a couple of years, but then, just stopped doing it. And then this year or early last year, I picked it up again and started like doing it as a kind of therapy in a way,
Well, that was going to be my next question. I was going to say, what do you get from it?
Yeah, it's funny when you get to be 48 or 50, something you might have done when you were 16 and people laugh at it, it's taken seriously. I find that with writing as well, and the older you get, the more it's taken seriously, And I kind of like that. All you need to do is just get old.
Yeah. The other thing is your cooking, and you're a big cook, aren't you?
I love it. I mean, that's the same thing as painting. The chance to get lost in something, and also I think cooking rather than painting for me is. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I have times when I show off. I think as performers we all do, but that frightens me sometimes. The showing off of it and people looking at me, but I think in cooking like a nice rib of beef or like something amazing, and that feels like showing off to me, in a nice way.
But you've cooked for me and for my wife. We came around for Sunday lunch. You did an astonishing thing. But it's hard then when you're me who doesn't cook. It's very diminishing for me to sit there. And I could see Claire was looking and thinking, what if, what might have been if fate hadn't dealt her such a bad hand. When we would work together, here's somewhere where we don't overlap. You would sometimes have those big headphones on, and I'd say, "What are you listening to, Nick?" And I'd have a listen. What do you call that god-awful racket that you like listening to?
That is called acid techno.
Why?
That is all I listen to whenever in the morning, if I'm writing. I mean, I was brought up and. When I was 16, I was going to the acid house parties in Essex, and that was where I began, So I've always had a great love of acid house and acid techno and kind of squat parties, and that was kind of me. But I think in this last year, I got being diagnosed with ADHD.
I didn't know that.
And I didn't know that either, but the guy who diagnosed me seemed to think that there is something about that repetition of acid techno, which actually it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There's something about it which is actually very focusing and it quite relaxing, really.
Yeah. So it's all. I'm going to sound like some old guy now, but it's all. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's a journey, there's a route to it. It all seems very logical to me. There's a path it takes.
Yeah.
And it builds to a crescendo, and then it breaks, and there's an upwelling of emotion and ecstasy, and then it goes grinding on again to another inevitable build and break.
So what are the consequences of being diagnosed with ADHD? Has it made sense of lots of things then?
Yeah, it did. There was always... I never realised that the things that were happening to me weren't happening to everyone else.
So being diagnosed, does that change that, or that is still the same, but you have a better understanding?
Yeah, it's still the same, but I have to now weigh up the cost of, do I treat that and risk potentially losing something which may have been helpful to me creatively? I'm taking something at the moment which takes a lot of that away without making me feel like I'm devoid of, creation.
At the beginning of the lockdown, you started a thing on Instagram where you would give your daily thought.
Yeah.
How long into that before you lost the will to live?
Not long. I mean, I was like a naive person in 1914 thinking the war would be over by Christmas.
Yes, you were. I remember when you started. I remember thinking, oh boy, he set himself a challenge here. Well, Nick, how lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate.
Have a lovely time in Los Angeles.
Well, listen, thanks for having me. It was lovely to see you.
Yes, I'm going now. Nick. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Rob.